My name is Hannah Cree, and I am a venture in residence with SheEO. I'm the co-founder of Common Good, which we employ people that are facing poverty and homelessness. And I have such an important person here on live. Here you are, Mick.
Hi.
That's amazing. So you are here with us. Thank you. You know what I love about what has happened during COVID? Not that I love COVID at all, but those pieces that we've all been able to connect around the world. And we have a shared experience that is so amazing that I can jump on a call with complete strangers and there's a shared experience and we can just start talking.
So true. I haven't thought of it that way. So thanks for bringing some positivity into what the world's been experiencing in 2020.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Mick, so where are you online from?
Okay, so I'm a Cabrogal woman from the Sydney Basin, but I live on Ngunnawal country in Canberra, Australia.
Yeah. Wow, Australian. I'm, of course, in Canada. And yesterday, actually, let's first start here. Tell us about your SheEO venture Indigital.
Yeah, so Indigital has been a long time in the making. So I grew up not knowing my heritage and not having that revealed to me until I was 18 and confirmed when I was 29. So it's been a really long journey for me to connect with my own culture. And I realized that there was a massive technology deficit for First Peoples in Australia. And then eventually I realized this was the same situation for people around the world. And I'm not just talking about phones, laptops, I'm talking about building the technologies of the future. So I started working in augmented and mixed realities in 2012 and exploring about how do our peoples bring our perspective, our knowledge, our language, our law into these technologies, and what do they look like for us? And we built this little company out of a very remote place in Australia called Kakadu, had a 20,000 square kilometre co-working space with 13 tribes of people, and we just played with augmented mixed reality. We played with drones and worked out how to do photogrammetry of large sites.
Wow.
And we ended up creating the first Indigenous augmented reality application, and it kind of went a little gangbusters, but that was really sad for me because it was just so expensive. Like my first application cost $150,000.
Oh yeah.
You know? Yeah. So, and I had to fund half of that myself. And then when I wanted to put more content in the application, when people wanted to work with us, it was so expensive. People just couldn't do it. So I almost quit 3 years ago and then met Microsoft, who ended up partnering with us, and Telstra, who ended up partnering with us, and we looked at how do we democratize access to augmented and mixed realities for Indigenous storytelling to help us not only preserve but proliferate cultural knowledge systems in these emergent technologies. And that's kind of led me on to doing research and development into looking at machine learning and how we could embed machine learning into holographic content that's Indigenous created, produced, and shared, and benefits Indigenous peoples financially, economically, and environmentally as well.
I had chills when you said preserving their history in digital technology. It's so important that I think back to in Canada and with the Indigenous people here that I learned nothing of this in school. I had no idea about the residential schools and the other things that have happened up until in my 20s, 30s, and then only in the last few years that I've really, and I am shocked, right? And so that you are preserving this in this because we're moving to this digital world is so important. So where is your tech being used right now?
So we just launched 2 weeks ago, and
yes. You got to celebrate as an entrepreneur.
And amazing because I don't think we would have been able to do this without the support of SheEO. So we're really excited. We launched a program called Indigital Schools, and Indigital Schools came from the time where I was sitting on country with an uncle called Neville Namanyuk, and he said, "Mick, I want this in every school." And so my brain was working for 5 years going, how do we make this work in schools? And we did a pilot in late 2018 where we worked with 20 students to help them build augmented reality storytelling of a dreaming, or how, I don't like the word dreaming, but how people came to be in Dharawal country. And the kids had such a phenomenal learning experience, not just with the tech, but building tech from an Indigenous cultural perspective led by elders. Mm-hmm. And it worked really well. So my job, I guess, as CEO of a startup was to go, how do we make this repeatable? How do we make it scalable? But how do we make it adaptable to each and every tribe and clan of people across our country and across the world? So
it's like no small feat.
No, it's really not. And there's a lot of work that underpins this model. So first and foremost is cultural and intellectual property and moral rights, and how you respect those in the digital ecosystem. Yeah. And the second thing is economic benefit. Like, data is money. So we had to work out, how do we make sure that the custodians of this knowledge and their communities are benefiting, not just in the way that most people like to work with our people, which is, hey, you guys share your story and we'll make sure that you get attributed. No, people get paid.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So people get paid to work with us to create learning plans and stories that get used in the context of the platform, but they also get paid in being co-designers in that as well. So I guess the rule of our company is, unless everyone around the table is getting paid, either no one gets paid or we don't join. So we make sure, like, I'm really protective of our people, like particularly my own tribe, being paid for knowledge that we've been custodians for and had to fight with our lives to protect this knowledge. You know, it's valuable. It shouldn't be given away.
No, and I think that's an important lesson for everybody. Like, something a little bit similar to me is when I came into SheEO with my own venture, MJ, who was our development guide, the coach for our year, is like, she was just like, yeah, MJ's amazing. It was just like, there's a point at which you've got to pay yourself in your venture. You're going to end up regretting it. It's about your value. You are doing important work. Yeah. And it's like you said, they've been custodians, and you have been custodians of this important cultural knowledge. And this is work, and it's important work. And, you know, this is the piece where we need to be at. So tell me, like, you just launched like the whole platform 2 weeks ago. How long have you been a SheEO venture first?
Since I think it was about March.
So you're just like really like newbie in.
Yes, well, new in some ways. When SheEO came to Australia, I activated, and I've been an activator. So it wasn't kind of new to me. I have to thank Julie Trell for poking me to put my application in.
I love her.
Yes, I know.
So inspirational. So you became an activator first.
Yeah, so I was an activator in the first year. We went through a little slump last year. So actually Anne-Marie Elias activated for me as a sponsor. So I was so excited to be able to be part of it again through her generosity. And actually 2 months ago, I was in a position where I could activate. So I elected to nominate an Indigenous businesswoman who I know will get a lot out of this journey as well. So I sponsored her in return.
Like, that's the radical generosity part, right? Where money is flowing, it doesn't stop. And the giving is flowing, and the open of networks and connections. And I love how different people come into the network. I came in as a venture, and then this year I was like, why am I not an activator? Wait, why am I not doing this? Like, you know, you can do it per month. This is manageable, and this money goes forever. Like, what a legacy gift that you've given.
Yeah, well, you know, I think Joe, who's my COO, and I have talked about wanting to do this every year for an Indigenous woman. So, like, we'll activate and we will sponsor someone else who was in our position, because there's so many barriers to being an Indigenous woman in technology, often working from rural and remote communities. It's just so hard. So if, I've got a lot of battle scars from the journey I've been on for 7 years getting this thing up and running. Why should someone else have to go through that? There's so many lessons of things not to do because, my story is a story of failure. I failed a lot of times. I failed in different technologies. I failed in different partnerships. I failed in different ways of doing things. And people often ask me, like, would you do something differently? And the answer is no. I think, we've got to embrace our failures because it's the times in your company where you turn around and go, okay, why didn't it work? And why is this causing me so much pain, whether it's emotional, financial, relationship? Like, it makes you look inwards. And I think it's a little tap on the shoulder. I just think about my ancestors and go, well, they had to endure so much more than I have had to endure in my life. And I've had so much invested in me, from mentors to education to opportunities, and I've been invested in by other people, and I have to just give it my best shot because a lot of my ancestors and my family were never afforded that opportunity. So I don't have the right to throw it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about, do you have anything what are you excited about? Do you have any exciting news or updates? I know you just launched, but I remember we have our weekly venture call, which is happening in a little bit. And like a couple of weeks ago, you sent out one tweet about the launch of your platform. That's it. And what happened?
So, I was just really excited about our new brand and our new website. And, we'd held it off because out of respect for Black Lives Matter. My community was in a lot of pain. I was struggling with what was going on. It just wasn't right. But we had this little moment of, we should be celebrating our wins as well. Like, yes, there's a lot of things that are wrong, but when we have a real breakthrough, we should be sharing that.
Yeah.
And it was a really quiet tweet. It was like something like, we're really excited that we've just launched our new platform, been working on it for ages. Go over and have a look. And it got 25,000 impressions on Twitter. And I think we got 175 new followers. And we've got like nearly 100 schools in our inbox wanting to hear from us. So that was really exciting and totally unexpected, just in the context of everything that was happening. So I saw this amazing GIF the other day, and it was like stick figures pushing a rock up a mountain, and then the rock following people down the mountain. They're running for their lives trying to get out of the way for it. So I felt like they were on the other side of the mountain last week, and I was like, far out, how do we do this? And we this week have had some new investment in our company, which is going to allow us to grow our team. So I'm really excited with the impact that we're already having and the opportunity to employ Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in our company, who will be in rural and remote communities. Like, I think having lived in rural and remote Australia for 15 years, there's no reason we can't have global companies from our communities that are not in the city. Like, my community is in the city, but I was a park ranger actually and spent 21 years being a park ranger, and there's just so many gifts that come from rural and remote living, just insights, deep connection, like right. All the lessons of my life have come from rural and remote Australia. And, we're great at pattern recognition and we're good at business. We just need to be, see that it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy because my grandfather was a park ranger for a long time. Like, so many years ago. He's passed away now, but he actually would say the same thing to me about his life as a park ranger. My grandmother having one kid with no electricity in the middle of nowhere, but the things that he learned from nature, but also living with rural people. He was like, there's always real lessons there. There's history that those communities hold that the rest of us, I could live 2 hours away in a big city, I would never know.
Yeah. You know what the best thing is? It's just the quiet. You truly get an opportunity to sit in nature and be quiet and be with yourself and hold your thoughts, but also just be so refreshed by nature. So yeah, a lot of ideas that I have. If I need a break, I'm definitely hitting the trails and getting outside, going camping, going hiking. I just took my family on a couple of days hike in New Zealand before COVID. So, the kids and I walked 55 Ks in remote New Zealand in a rainforest with my partner. And
who are you?
It was the best. So we've always got an adventure planned. I think it's important to unplug. So.
Yeah. Like, what an incredible experience to be able to go do that. And like right before the whole COVID piece, but yeah, so tell me, I want to say to you, like, oh, you're just beginning, it's just 2 weeks old, but you've been doing this forever. And you've been in that for 7-8 years but you're seeing so much, really in 2 weeks, so much traction, and you're doing such important work. And I believe the timing, at least from my view in Canada and the US and what's happening in the world, I also believe people are ready for this conversation, and they're really searching out for platforms and people to share these stories and to get them out there. And I know, especially the schools from where I am, they need to be able to develop this type of education, and it's really not developed yet.
Yeah. So the way that we do work in schools is we have a platform which is a library of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander stories, but we've made this platform so it's global. Any First Peoples can add their stories in and create lesson plans around it. And then that's shared in the classroom, and or a traditional owner is in the classroom with the kids where possible as well. And they share whatever they want. It can be a traditional cultural story, it can be a medicine story, it can be a family story, it can be like a modern day story, it can be any story. And then the kids are inspired to create a 3-dimensional character, and we teach them how to make 3D objects and characters.
So cool.
And then we teach them how to animate those objects and characters. And then they hop in Minecraft education, and they build the world out in Minecraft education. And we've got a couple of other little lessons where kids learn code like Python, and they can spawn Aboriginal zombies, and they can also play around with Aboriginal or Indigenous chatbots that are in language that introduce kids to language words. So there are a couple of the things that we do in Minecraft, and then we get them to export that as a structure block. And our platform uses AI to pull all those 3 pieces of content together for the kids, and it makes it into an augmented reality experience that they can share in their community.
I'm in. How do I do this? It's so amazing. Do you have it for adults? Like the Minecraft, like you're teaching them about history, but you're also giving them incredible tech skills that a lot of times the schools can't offer, or so on, right? And so that blend of education and tech is so amazing. So we talked about the Twitter piece, about you had like one good reaction on Twitter, but I heard you might have been using Twitter for something else today. So let's talk about let's jump into like what's going on. What are you frustrated by? Or what do you want to see change in the world?
Yeah, so I was very lucky to be selected to do a Master of Applied Cybernetics at the Australian National University. So I'm doing that at the moment.
First, what is that? Say that again. What is that?
Master of Applied Cybernetics. So it looks at cyber physical systems and what are the questions, what are the ethics, what are the things that you need to consider when you're taking a cyber physical system to scale.
Wow.
So there's a lot in there. There's not a lot of Aboriginal representation in the industry, which is going to be a real problem.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of, like, whether it's an intentional or non-intentional racism, it's there a lot in technology systems. And I'm just thinking, like, I went to the United Nations a couple of years ago because when we started doing image recognition technologies for our first application, there was a real problem with the image recognition being able to see black hands. And I was like, oh, that's terrible. It's a real problem for the products that we want to build. how did this happen? So we went down an exploration of like looking at the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and then realizing, oh, that happened in 2008 when no one had a smartphone in their hand really, and data wasn't ubiquitous, and we didn't have cameras looking at us and doing facial recognition and all that kind of stuff back then. So I went with it. I guess it was a BHAG for human rights, which is like, how do we bake this into the document? Because data's money, and data can be justice, and data can be education. But also when that data is collected on you, not by you, without your design and without your consent, there's a lot of problem. Anyway, this morning I was just looking for some stock footage for a project, and I typed in my tribe. Surprise, there was nothing there. But I then typed in Aboriginal just to be more generic, and what confronted me was all this really inappropriate content about Neanderthals, and also like Bigfoot hairy monsters came up
when you were like searching for stock images for Aboriginal people.
Yeah.
So that's what came up.
Yeah. So I just tweeted about, I took a screenshot and tweeted about it, and I was like, this is appalling. But this just demonstrates again why we need our people's voices in these platforms, in these technologies, in all the facets of life. I don't know, are just being created by people that have never been brought up to think about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander or Indigenous perspectives, and it's just not front of mind for people, and it has real implications for our people.
Yeah.
It's, this can be life and death. This definitely is how money flows, not into communities or into communities. It's a really important topic, and the hardest thing to do as a person who has some experience in this is go to a forum like the United Nations and say, what about data and what about technology, when everybody else is saying my people are being assassinated by my government, or like just the most horrendous, heinous crimes are still being committed on Indigenous peoples. And I'm there going, what about data? But I know it's really important and has huge future implications for our peoples if we don't get involved. Yeah,
there's a lot of problems in the world, and there's no point of putting them next to each other and trying to compare. I believe we need to use our own greatest gifts and what we're great at, and then look at what systems we can change with that. And if you are doing this incredible work in tech, then we need you to be advocating for people of color, for Aboriginals, Indigenous, like all of those things, because that's what you're good at. And you found something that honestly you could change within that system. I also hear an incredible business opportunity with stock photography for Indigital. And like, you go create that, or find someone that's passionate about it. But it's kind of like, use our greatest skills and what we're passionate about in systems change work and go at that, because we need everyone with different experiences to really double down and focus in, because you can't change the whole system or the world, but you can make a lot of change within what you're doing.
Yes, I had some really great advice given to me by an uncle years ago, and he said, every time you work for your people, you give a little bit of skin. And he's like, make sure you're giving the right skin, and make sure people don't skin you alive as well. So
wow.
Yeah. So that stayed with me through my journey. And it's hard to say no to things, but I'm learning that if I don't say no to things, then everyone has an opinion about stuff, and I'm probably not helping. If it's not my area of expertise, I always recommend on someone else who that is their area of expertise. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What do you wish someone would have told you before you started your business? That you would work a lot. I don't know, but yeah. What's that?
Maybe the best thing that I've learned over time, and maybe it's just because I'm becoming like an old lady now. When you're really pushing for something and you're putting a lot of effort in and things aren't working out the right way, but you have a deadline, or you have a financial objective, or there's something that's going on that's driving that, but it's not being driven in here, and the universe kind of conspires to not make it happen. But then the right time will happen and it will be effortless. We're trying to listen to those cues in our company, because every time for the last 7 years when something hasn't worked out, there's always been a very good reason that I couldn't have known about that it didn't happen.
Oh my God, yes.
And when it has happened, it's been effortless. And it's like, wow, I should have just listened, because all the signs were there if I just tuned into the pattern and I just tuned into the energy and everything else that was going on around it. Yeah.
What Vicky says, founder of SheEO, says is follow the energy. And like, what are you noticing? What are you noticing? And I noticed that in my own business, that it was getting really incredible hard, but we are pushing to make all these happen because we had investors, or we had commitments, or we had whatever that was. But it was, in the end, it was like, no, the door's actually slamming on your face.
Yes.
and even to have the practice of like, what are you noticing? What's working? What's not? What am I good at? What is this person good at? Can what they're not good at be shifted over here? Like, not being kind of confined in this framework, but really, I know. I think because there's a whole mantra in entrepreneurship that I've seen and I experience is like, you got to work hard and, to the grind, and almost like, how many entrepreneurs have I met that are totally burnt out because we work ridiculous hours, we do all of these things, but it's also because we're pushing up all these doors and they're like, if the door's closed, slam through it. And it's like, or maybe there's a reason why the door is closed, because there's a better, easier way.
Yeah, my dad always tells me, there's another door. You just got to find the other door.
Oh my gosh, I love your dad.
He's like, and then when things happen, like last week, he's like, I told you there was another door. You just had to find it. So,
That's so good.
Yeah, listening to the energy. I think the other thing is listening to your own personal energy about stuff. Like, sometimes it can take me an hour to write one paragraph because I'm bloody exhausted. And Jo is great at, Jo, who's in my company, she's the CEO, she's amazing. She's like, you need to listen to that energy, because if you just took that hour to rest, it would take you 2 seconds the next time you pick it up to do it. So
I'm so guilty of that.
Yeah, so just resting, and we want to move to a 4-day work week in our company. So we're trialing that out every fortnight at the moment. We're taking every second Monday off. I think that there is some magic to that. There's a lot of research over 4-day work week. There's a lot of research around how much employees really work during the day, and like what's their sweet spot, and how much you can get done. And I think it's an interesting model, and I think these are the things that a lot of different ventures are exploring now. Like, what's better for our people? What's better for our planet? How do we do these types of things? And so I love that you're paying attention to that, because that's what I'm like, oh my gosh, this is taking me an hour. If I just went and took that nap for 30 minutes. Yeah. And then also noticing, like, am I actually the person to be doing this? Is it taking all the energy from me? Then maybe that's actually not my superpower, and I shouldn't be touching the financials. Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah. Having my first employee has been amazing, and I'm kind of frustrated I didn't do it earlier. I was just scared of bringing. I was happy to eat lentils when I had to. I didn't want to force that upon someone else, But then it got to the point where I was like, I physically can't do all this stuff by myself. And so I brought someone else on, and I'm like, how did I do this before? Right. I don't know how to do it. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that hiring the first person in whatever business, it doesn't matter if it's your first or 10th business, hiring that first person, there's like it takes entrepreneurs a really long time, some of us, to do that, right? But there's a tipping point, and then it happens, and you're like, I don't know how I even lived in this world before. It's amazing.
So we just got a little bit of investment now. We're like growing the team by another 4 people. So I'm really excited about that.
You're hiring during COVID. You
Yeah.
are providing employment for people during a global pandemic. And I had a friend say, "Oh, I'm just really guilty because I'm hiring and my other friends, businesses are not doing well." And I was like, some of us are doing well, some of us are not, but you should feel so grateful that you have an opportunity to employ people because people are being laid off all the time. And so I think it's so magical in that. So I want to hear, we know that in the SheEO community, we have an ask and a give, and it's amazing. People can ask, and we have more than enough in our community. People always respond. I always think about the SheEO Summit where someone stood up and said, "Hey, does anyone know the CEO of this company?" And like 3 hands in the room went up, like, yeah, can do that. And that was the moment for me. I was like, oh, really? You just really got to ask. And then there's lots of people that give. So what's your ask to our community?
I'm going to be too cheeky and ask for 2 things today.
Yes.
First is to do with Indigital schools. So please send us schools. We're going to be hosting some webinars in the next fortnight about the program to help schools on board to what it is and how they get involved.
Okay. And
you can do that by going to our website, indigitalschools.com, and we've got a little form called Keep Track. And people can just pop their details in there and we'll invite them into the webinars. The second thing is I'm doing this really cool, very, very cutting edge program in an incredibly remote community in Australia. And there's an uncle there who's holding a story that's 80,000 years old, and he wants to tell it in interactive hologram.
Wow. I
would really, really, really like the National Geographic to work with us on this. It's an important global initiative, and the community have raised some funding to be able to do this, but we need enough funding to do it properly and to honour this uncle's vision for the project that he has. Yeah. Okay,
so those are 2 asks. On the school piece, Can they be schools from anywhere in the world? Or are you specific? Yeah?
Yeah, look, we're not going to say no to globalization. We've built a global company, but we're specifically working in Australia till the end of the year, and then we'll have opportunities for next year overseas. So anywhere in the world. So if you're willing to wait like till 2021, we can definitely look at overseas stuff.
Yeah.
We'd be really, really excited to work with communities. And we have had Taino peoples from Puerto Rico contact us already, asking us to go and work over there. So, yeah, really exciting. But, there's things about scaling something globally that we have to work out, like, what does that look like for your people? Yeah,
there's a lot of building, but get on the list so that you can be a part of something that I've never seen. What you've created, I've never seen anything like that before, and I think it's an incredible opportunity in the education space. And I just thank you for all of those long years, because I know what it's like, and failures for it to lead to this moment. And then also National Geographic, you've been put on blast. We are coming nicely, openly, but we want you to get involved because I think that's an incredible project too. So thank you for those asks, and we'll tag everyone out. And so my last kind of wrap up, do you have any advice? And because you've been an activator and then a venture, which is awesome, but specifically, do you have any advice for ventures applying? And then do you have any advice for people that may want to be an activator?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Just do it, because we can't afford not to. The old system doesn't work. So I was all up for trying something new. But in terms of being a venture, Julie Drell had to really poke me to put an application in, because I didn't know, there's so many amazing female-led ventures out there. I didn't know that we would be considered up there with these amazing companies and these amazing women. I had full, imposter syndrome about it. So Julie's like, no, you have to get it in. So she poked me, and I got in at the 11th hour and then became a venture. So I'm really grateful to be on this journey. The things that the money's great, the network and getting the mentorship and support and advice is invaluable. You can't buy that stuff. It's amazing. Our venture's gone from strength to strength only since February. I couldn't have imagined this journey in a pandemic, in bushfires,
right,
in floods, in a recession. Like, I just couldn't have imagined this could happen to us in the context of all those things. So, yeah, we're just so grateful to be a part of it. And if you're considering being a venture, do it. Just put it in, and you learn so much about the process. Like, I put my venture in last year and not failed, but I wasn't selected. So, I just wasn't ready. And that's another example of when you're not ready to do something. And sometimes the universe will conspire to make you more ready for the time that is right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I got to tell you that Julie is actually on this live stream. She is making comments and so much love for you. And I echo the same, like the support and the support and the space to figure out what's happening to your venture during COVID. And everyone just, like, the number one question I get all the time is like, what do you need? How can I help? What do you need? And I'm just like, what alternate universe am I living in? This is amazing. So yeah, I love your advice. Just do it. It makes it plain and simple. Just get out there. So how can what's your website?
Indigitalschools.com.
Perfect. So that's where people can go. I would highly suggest checking out her Twitter because, amazing things happen on there. I don't even know what's going on there
since we've started the call.
She's creating a little bit of Twitter controversy today on stock photo, which you absolutely should. People need to be recognized. This is a big piece of what we're moving into. So thank you so much. Every week that we get to see each other on the venture calls, you're so inspiring in what you're creating. And even through all of this really hard stuff, your voice has always been one of light and just like pushing through. And I didn't even know how, you just launched the platform and all of these pieces, but you've been going at it for so long. And that's what it takes when we're building things that are actually new models and are changing the way that people really think about. And I believe because of COVID, the time is now. People are open to this, and not everyone, but there's a lot more deeper conversations. So thank you. And
thanks, Hannah.
Go check out Mick on all of the platforms. And we're going live tomorrow with another venture. Thank you so much.
Thank you.